on my end. Wonderful, thank you. Okay, so welcome everyone. My name is Jessica Hurtado, and I am the program supervisor for the Student Experience Division with the CVC-OEI, the California Virtual Campus Online Education Initiative. And today we are here in collaboration with colleagues from MSJC. And today we are presenting on Pisces and NetTutor. So eeny, meeny, Pisces or NetTutor. CCC colleagues share best practices for using the Pisces platform and NetTutor as complementary tools. Okay, a little bit about what we will discuss today. We'll go ahead and introduce all of the wonderful people who are here today to present on this topic. Then myself and my colleague Karen A. will also talk a little bit about the CVC-OEI implementation process. And then we'll hand it over to our colleagues at MSJC. And then we'll have an opportunity for open discussions, and then obviously to have an opportunity to answer all of your questions. Wonderful, so we'll get started with introductions. So from Mount San Jacinto, we have Maria Aquino, Dominique Duarte, Ted Blake, Evelyn Menz, and these are wonderful colleagues who have been implementing the Pisces platform and NetTutor at their local campus. So they're here to share their tips and their experience in doing this for their students. And then we also have our colleague Richard Mead from NetTutor. These are at Link Systems International. So he's also here to help answer any technical questions that you might have. Alrighty. So online tutoring resources, just so you know, we want to get this out of the way first, any general information that we have to provide you. Make sure that you visit our cvc.edu website. We have tons of resources there. You can find more about online tutoring resources like webinar videos, training videos, document guides, implementation support. We have all of those resources on our website. We understand these are very interesting times for all of us as we're transitioning all of our services to the online environment, as we're waiting to hear what fall will look like, as many of you are having to really pivot, right? A lot of the way that you are providing services to your students. We want to make sure that you know that we're here to support you and to provide as much support, resources, information that you may need. Please contact us as often as you need to find that support and to get the answers. For those of you who want to know where you can access the recording of this webinar, we will post all of our recordings on our @ONE YouTube channel. My colleague Karen A will be able to post that link in the chat. So please feel free to visit that YouTube channel. You'll find all of our webinars, our previous webinars on different ecosystem tools, and also from our professional development team at @ONE. So if you've missed any of our previous webinars, please make sure you go to the @ONE YouTube channel and you'll be able to find them there. For the recording today, please give us a few days so that we can send it out for closed captioning. And then once that's done, we'll again post it on the YouTube channel for all of you to share and to review at a later time. So again, where are some of these resources? Please keep in mind that our CVC-OEI team has put together what we call an ecosystem portal. The front page of that ecosystem portal is right here. That's a quick image. It is built inside of Canvas. And the neat part about this is that it's broken up into different tabs depending on the tool or the ecosystem tool that you're looking for. It'll have general information on how to get started, how to implement at your campus, and exactly what the tool can be used, how it could be used, resources, like I mentioned before, tutorial videos, PDF documents that you can share with your teams, and so much more. So please, if you have some time, please visit that ecosystem portal. My colleague Karen will also place that link in the chat so you can access that. And so here, I like to kind of take a moment to really talk about, really important conversations around how we're going to see funding for ecosystem tools, right, as we move forward. I'll go into more detail in my next slide, but just take a moment and think about, what does it mean to leverage the CVC-OEI ecosystem tools? Many of you be part of a consortium college, a CVC-OEI consortium college, and you might know that as part of the consortium, right, we have an agreement, and a lot of these tools are free for consortium colleges. We then went through the whole COVID-19 situation. Funding changed a little bit, right, because of the fact that the Chancellor's Office was able to expand resources to then be able to provide the ecosystem tools, not only to consortium colleges that had an agreement with us, but to the entire system, right? And so what we want to make sure that you understand is, the key here is to really just take a look and take an inventory of what's existing. What are some of the existing online tools at your campus, right? So we're not saying you have to replace whatever you have on your campus with the tools that we're offering, but really find where there might be a missing, right, a missing piece. So if you already have a tool for, proctoring or for counseling, you've already found a way to provide that service, doesn't mean you have to, replace that with one of our tools. It really is, again, finding where you might not have that exact online service and how these tools can help you leverage that opportunity for your students, right? Again, we're hoping that these tools will fill in the gaps, possibly lead to you developing a student support hub where we talk about, bringing all of these resources into one space so that our students are able to quickly access online support services where they're not navigating tons of different websites to try and find that direct service. And then again, how do we think about sustainable online resources and services, right? So what does our future look like, with these hard times, with a lot of impact on our budgets? How do we create online services that can be sustainable long-term? So talking about that, before COVID-19, again, I talked a little bit about this. We have, we had a very interesting way of providing resources, right? Specifically to these ecosystem tools like Pisces and NetTutor. We had about 57 consortium colleges who we called, the CVC-OEI consortium colleges. And so for them, we were providing the Pisces license at zero cost and the NetTutor services at a 500-hour cap. That meant within that year, they were provided 500 hours for free. If the college went over those 500 hours, then the college would be responsible for covering the cost for those 500 hours after what we provided through the CVC-OEI. The non-consortium colleges were also provided free access to the Pisces license, but with NetTutor services, non-consortium colleges would have to purchase through an individual contract. And I placed the link here for College Buys because that explains a little bit more about what does it mean when you're not part of a consortium, when you're not part of the consortium, what do the prices look like for your individual college, right? And so this again was before COVID-19. After COVID-19, on March 19th, 2020, the Chancellor's Office provided statewide funding to expand access, sorry, one second, to expand access to the CVC-OEI online ecosystem tools like NetTutor. Again, Pisces was already free for all 115 CCs. And so now what are we looking at, right? So from March 19th, 2020 to June 30th, 2020, that was the original months that the Chancellor's Office was going to cover the subscription for NetTutor. But now recently that has been extended. So if those of you have not, maybe you haven't seen our website, that has been extended. So July 1st, 2020 through December 30th, that will also be an opportunity for your colleges to use the service at zero cost. After January 2021, we don't know yet. We can't speak to that at this moment. We are working closely with the Chancellor's Office every single day to really, look at the approach for upcoming semesters and what that will look like. Okay. Any questions that you have around pricing and just how this impacts your particular college, please feel free to email us at support at cvc.edu, and we'll provide those resources in a few minutes. So implementation. If your college is interested in implementing NetTutor and the Pisces platform, or let's say your campus was only using one of the tools, maybe you were only using Pisces or only using NetTutor, please contact us, like I mentioned before, at support@cvc.edu. Our colleague Chuck Myers will connect with you. We will forward this information to him, and he will make sure to connect with you to make sure that your campus is up to speed and they have everything that they need to get to move forward with the tools. Again, March 19th through December 30th, all CCCs are encouraged to use Pisces and NetTutor specifically as complementary tools to support online tutoring. And this is key when we talk about sustainable implementation. Our goal and recommendation is that colleges use Pisces, the Pisces platform, as the priority tool. That should be your main focus. The reason why we think that's an opportunity for you to really bring your on-campus tutoring services to the online environment. These are familiar faces. You're bringing your own tutors, training your own tutors to use this online platform to continue the services that students may be used to accessing face-to-face on ground. And so this is really a good way to continue and to create that sustainable, feature to be able to continue supporting our students the same way. Local colleges will decide, right, the policies around how tutors will provide the services and procedures around, how you will maintain that in your particular department. This is also key when you're talking about service hours, right? So talking to your tutors about, what are the online tutoring hours going to look like? What tools you have available for them to continue their work that they were doing on ground. NetTutor, oops, that should be a 2, should be a supplemental tool that should help you, again, fill in the gaps for hours or tutoring subjects. What does that mean? Let's say you set up the Pisces platform and you have maybe, 10, 15, or a lot more tutors. If you are not able to provide hours beyond tutoring hours or services beyond 7 o'clock or 6 o'clock in the evening, maybe at that point NetTutor could be the option to supplement hours, right? So maybe you direct your students to NetTutor services from 7 p.m. and on till the late evening hours where you don't expect your college tutors to work. So the other thing that NetTutor can provide is also supplement the tutoring subjects. If you don't have a particular subject, a tutor that has services for a particular subject, that's when you can also refer your student to the NetTutor services. For those of you who may not know, NetTutor has private tutors that will provide services through the same platform. It's the Pisces platform, but you're now not dealing with a direct college tutor. Now you're dealing with a private tutor through the services that NetTutor provides. Okay, awesome. So now I'm going to hand it over to my colleague Richard Mead, and so he's going to kind of take us back to a little bit of the basics of what is Pisces, what is the difference between Pisces, NetTutor, and Sophia. I know some of you may already have experience with these platforms, but just in case we have anyone in the room who is brand new to this, we want to make sure that we touch on this information as well.
Thanks, Jessica. Appreciate that introduction. Yeah, I just wanted to take a minute to kind of detail the differences between Pisces, NetTutor, and talk about our other product, Sophia, a little bit, and then also talk to you a little bit about some of the training and support that we can provide here at Link Systems International. So the Pisces is the platform, so where you can use your tutors to deliver, tutoring to your students. We have some schools that are using Pisces for online supplemental instruction, especially as everybody's had to really shift gears with the current situation that we're in. They're really finding some unique ways of using Pisces for tutoring, as well as for some other, other needs that they have now with everybody being online. So that's the platform, and as Jessica said, that's free for you guys to use. It's paid for by the CVC-OEI for all of the California community colleges. NetTutor is the online tutoring service. So this is where it's, our tutors utilize a version of the Pisces platform, but it's our tutors providing the tutoring instead of your local peer tutors on Pisces. And so we have a lot of schools who are using NetTutor as a supplement. So, as Jessica said, you have your own tutors online, kind of providing that primary support for your students. And then when maybe your tutors aren't available, or maybe it's a subject area where you just haven't quite been able to find a subject matter expert in, and we have that, then students have another option to be able to get support through NetTutor. And we have some different ways that can look to the student. We have a nice landing page that we've developed so that Pisces, your tutors are available on one card, and then right below that there'll be an option for students to choose NetTutor. So we've really integrated that nicely into the Canvas learning management systems across the system. Sophia is I wanted to get you familiar with just another product from Link Systems, but that's our online math homework and assessment tool, and it's really geared toward not being tied to a particular textbook. It lends itself nicely to OER materials that you might be using in your course, and the content in Sophia goes from basic math all the way through Calc 1, as well as elementary statistics. So lots of content in there, and it's also integrated with Pisces and NetTutor, because there's some opportunities in some of the questions where if you want the student to answer the question and then show their work, the drawing canvas from Pisces pops up, and so they can show their work and submit that with their assignment. And then if it's not an assessment or an exam or a quiz, and you wanted to turn on the NetTutor button, there's a button in Sophia that says Ask a Tutor. So that'll open up a canvas, bring that iteration of the question that they were working on in Sophia onto that canvas, and a tutor and the student can work through that problem in case they're stuck. So they have some helpful tips and tricks and show me's and things like that built within the system, but then having that additional opportunity to get help from a live tutor is really cool. So that's kind of how all three of those are intertwined in the differences between each. And then some of the support that we can provide, we have multiple webinars each week for Pisces as well as for NetTutor to get your tutors familiar with the platform, any administrators, supervisors, or managers. So I encourage you, if you are using Pisces and maybe you're new to it and you want to get some folks on board and invite them to the webinars, and we'll have the June webinar schedule coming out here very soon this week. So invite your staff to join those. And then for lots of schools, including Mount San Jacinto, I've done, and my team has done some training. We get a group together. They've already been in the platform a little bit. They've already gone to some of the webinars. And it's just another great opportunity to where we can help work with you and maybe even make some tweaks and customizations to the system. We also, through our NetTutor webinar series, have what we call jam sessions. And that gives your tutors the opportunity to join a jam session with our tutors, because our tutors were on-campus tutors or teachers in their previous lives or even currently. And they can help your tutors understand the technology, some of the pro tips, if you will, of interacting with students in an online environment. And really they can share their experiences and expertise of how to translate some of those on-campus tutoring, how you tutor on campus in a face-to-face environment, kind of how that you can translate that into an online environment using the Pisces platform. So thanks, Jessica.
Wonderful, thank you. Okay, here we go. So, oh, what's that? Sorry, I see something on the screen. Okay, perfect. So now we're going to hand it over to our wonderful colleagues from MSJC. I just want to make sure I didn't go too far. Sorry about that. There we go. So Evelyn Menz, I'll hand it over to you.
Thank you, Jessica. And I want to thank you and Karen for the incredible work that you guys do to support all of us here in California as we work to make this a better place, our education a better place for all of the students who we serve. And I do want to give a shout out to Richard. He's been an incredible help to us, and you'll hear about that in a few moments. And also to my colleagues, Ted, Maria, and Dominique for all their hard work. I am Evelyn Menz. I am the LRC coordinator at the main campus, San Jacinto campus, for Mount San Jacinto College. I've been there about 15 years, and I'm so fortunate to have had the time that I've spent with Mount San Jacinto College. I wanted to tell you before we start that we have had online tutoring available to students for a long, long time. We were trying to look back through our records, and we think that we started with Smart Thinking in like 2011. And then we switched, of course, we switched to Link Systems and to NetTutor, thanks to the generous help that we received from CVC. So we already had online tutoring in place, but not in-house online tutoring. So we talked a lot about building our own in-house online tutoring service, but it was just a very complicated thing. It was very costly, it looked like, and we had so many other jobs that we just didn't work on that. But in the summer of 2017, we found out that we had about $10,000 of our budget left that we could spend out in the summer, because of course we don't want to give anything back. And anyway, Maria Aquino, the tutorial service specialist, and myself and the two coordinators, the math and writing center coordinator, had talked about developing an online tutoring program in-house because it does such a wonderful service to our students. These tutors know our faculty, they know the classes, and it's just such a personalized way to offer tutoring. So we decided that we would work on developing an online tutoring program. This program was established in the summer of 2017, and we targeted a fall startup date. And it took almost all of that summer, approximately 2 months of preparation to launch our in-house online tutoring program. Next. What we had to do, there were so many things we had to consider, and that's some of the things we wanted to share with you guys as you're starting programs or you're in the middle of this to have your own online services. We had to decide on a platform. We had used Smart Thinking. We had been using NetTutor. We were really pleased with NetTutor, and with, and they were using Pisces. They originally had used the Worldwide Whiteboard, but they had switched to Pisces. And we considered two others. We considered using Zoom. We considered creating a cafe, but we decided to use Pisces because our students were familiar with that NetTutor online tutoring services. And we were familiar with the reporting technology it provided us, which is very, very important. We learned that Pisces would accommodate us at no charge, thanks to CVC-OEI, again, shout out. And finally, the scalability of Pisces was a huge benefit because, as you will see, we went from 10 online tutors to 80 online tutors in less than 3 weeks. In order to start, also, we figured out the platform. We also had to develop a building team. And as we got into this, we realized there were so many constituents that we had to work with. They were all integral parts of us being able to develop this program. I worked with Maria Aquino, our tutorial services specialist extraordinaire, our writing and math center coordinators. There were 7 peer tutors we chose to work with us, and one of them is in the audience today. We also worked with IT and ATS at Mount San Jacinto College, the instruction dean, the technology dean, and the campus administrator. Those were all pieces of this puzzle that we had to align so that we could put this in place. And link systems, especially link systems. So there were 11 pieces to this puzzle that we had to get together. We had to make sure it worked. Next. While we were working on this in the hopes that we would get approvals across the board to get this up and running, we decided we would spend a lot of time in NetTutor just so we could gain an understanding ourselves of the student experience and the tutor side of this. You know, how you set it up, the delivery. We wanted to make sure we were familiar with the layout of NetTutor and Pisces. So we would, as administrators of this, we would go in and work with the tutors, and we would even tell the NetTutor tutors that what we were doing, and they were so helpful to us. And we also had our 7 student tutors go in and work with these tutors as well. We also worked with Link Systems, their product manager, Robert Vate, who is another wonderful, wonderful support. And he helped provide synchronous training to our tutors once we got everything set in motion. He spent hours with us working. We had a computer room. We were just sitting in there learning. And we spent lots and lots of time figuring out how to make the best use of the tools that Pisces was providing us. IT and Canvas and the Canvas administrator also worked with Link Systems to implement access throughout Canvas shells. And I know there's some questions about Canvas. I do want to tell you, and we'll talk more about this, but our students have very easy access to both NetTutor and our services, as well as Star California, just simply by logging into their Canvas account. The planning and execution of this program took about a month of working with IT and Canvas. So there's time involved that you've got to be aware of to get this thing in place. We wanted to make sure we could customize where students would access the new online tutoring services in their Canvas shell. The tutor training began with overview for tutors of using the Pisces technology and continued throughout the summer. Once technical training, all this technology, which there's a lot of technology to learn, the focus was on online tutoring protocols. So how were we going to act as online tutors? How was it different from face-to-face? How do we create that intimacy that you share when you tutor a student? You know, how do you build that relationship? Those kind of things. We did a lot of mock tutoring sessions as well to help us all gain confidence in this new tutoring style we were using. Next. And then fall 2017 came around and we launched the MSJC in-house online tutoring service. We had been able to purchase 8 laptops that we used in the Center for Online Services. We have a center that probably looks very much like many of yours. You know, we have computer access, we have all kinds of tables for tutoring, we have a math center, a writing center, we have workshops. But we didn't want to use the computers that students needed to use, so we would purchase these laptops. And when the tutors who were assigned online tutoring would come in, they would check out a laptop and it would be available to them to use. In the fall of 2017, we had very limited usage, I'm sorry to say. We had less than 100 sessions total. We had done an extensive marketing workout, but we just didn't see any increase in usage. We just tried and tried different, you know, methods of marketing this. And that's the hardest part, is to get the student buy-in after you get the faculty buy-in. But we still continued training and updating ourselves and working on anything that was new, because at that time we went from the whiteboard to the Pisces service. And so we continue to push and push ourselves through marketing and faculty buy-in. And in the spring and fall of 2018, that next year, we saw some improvement in usage, but it wasn't significant. we still could get by with 10 or less tutors tutoring online. In spring and fall of 19, we had the same experience. It was very frustrating to see this incredible service available and it just not peaked the way we had hoped it would do. But as all of you know, in spring of 2020, for us, on the evening of Friday, March 13th, we received a call that that everything we offered, every service, every class, every part of our college institution was going to be going online. And so on Friday, March 13th, everything changes.
Thank you, Evelyn.
Thank you.
Okay. I believe we have
Thank
Maria
you.
next.
Yeah. Yeah, sorry.
I was just
Trying
going to
to
say, if
unmute
you
my
have any
video.
questions
There we
about
go.
the startup part, please put them in the chat and we'll be glad to address them.
So thank you. I'm so happy to
Thanks,
be here
Evelyn.
and share this
We're,
information with everybody. Okay. So I'm Maria Kino. I'm happy to be here, and I'm going to talk about the training aspect, or getting this program started, where we had to bring together 5 different programs, the scalability, and everybody moving forward as one group. I mean, that really is what we needed to do in this situation, where now we all work at college campuses, and we have maybe one main campus and several sub-campuses. And so you have programs on different campuses, and now, but that's all gone away because we're all now virtual, and it's just one campus. We're just one Mount San Jacinto College. And so we brought together these 5 groups to become one group and work together. It was really one of our first major hurdle, but everybody did so well. It was really great. So next slide, we'll talk about that. We really came together as a cohesive group. We established, with the help of our deans and our VPs, helped us chart a course forward. And then also we met weekly as subgroups to help us develop more policies and procedures moving forward. But really the most important thing is that we did come together as a cohesive group, supporting each other, like I said, meeting weekly and sharing ideas, you need a lot of eyes looking at these online programs or any programs from all different directions to make sure we hopefully don't miss something, that we do deliver the easiest platform, a seamless platform for our students to get to. So it was really great working with our deans, our VPs, and all of us, so many coordinators and support staff, to develop these new online our new online program. Next slide. Okay. The second major impact is, can your tutors move to an online environment? You know, do they have the technology to continue tutoring from home? How is their Wi-Fi? A big question too, do they want to tutor from home? Some of them might not feel comfortable. So one big share, again, with bringing everybody together, our SI coordinator had already developed a technology survey that she had sent out to her SI leaders, and I was happy to use it. I'm a big fan of not reinventing the wheel. We all have a lot of work to do, so I took her survey and you just reformatted it for the questions we needed to ask our tutors, and we sent it out. We were actually looking at about 151 peer and faculty tutors. Out of the 151, we were able to keep 114, 24.5%. They couldn't transition to online, but there was a lot of different factors: lack of technology, undependable Wi-Fi, and for some, technology overload, where some students, if we think about the transition, we all transitioned from working face-to-face every day to now, whether you like it or not, you're online. So we had students who really weren't prepared to do their classes online and then also tutor online. And same thing for faculty. They went from face-to-face classes to having to acclimate to an online environment and deliver their classes. So for some peer tutors and faculty, they were just, you know what, I want to stick to I want to do one thing very well. So I'm going to stick to my classes or, you know, my teaching and finishing up the spring semester as well as possible. So those are some things to consider when you're moving forward. And we will be sharing, we have a link to a shared folder that will have some of those documents in it for anybody to borrow. Like I said, I'm a big fan of not reinventing the wheel. Next slide. Okay. So after we surveyed everybody, we knew who was going to stick around. We had to do training. Training is key. We were lucky. We had some tutors that were already trained. And so we set up 4 hours of mandatory training for everybody. And 2 hours were to familiarize themselves with the tools within our Pisces platform, what it looked like, getting comfortable, downloading documents, writing on the whiteboard, putting pictures on the whiteboard, stuff like that. Then mock tutoring practice as well, to where they led a session. They, how do they welcome somebody into their room? How do they keep the chat going? How do they, make sure they're asking the right questions, or that they're making sure that there's not a whole lot of dead time to where a tutee feels like they've been abandoned. So we were lucky. We already had 8 in-house training facilitators. The training took about 2+ weeks, and we delivered not 130 training sessions each week. That's an error, but 137 training sessions in 2+ weeks. So we got a lot of work done, and it was really exciting to watch that happen. Next slide, and we can talk about the debriefs that we went through. So the training was happening, but also midweek, every week through the trainings, we had debriefs with all the trainers and the facilitators, the coordinators, and the TSSs, so we could understand and talk about technology glitches. I'm sure at least we did experience, because we put everybody online, we all have to understand technology is going to glitch. And so we had times when it wouldn't work, and just different things, and people were panicking, and we even kind of wondered, oh my God, do we stay with NetTutor? It's not working, but we did. We stuck with it. With great support. I do have to give a great shout out to our deans and our VP. They all told us, take a breath, take a moment. We're going to be okay. We're going down this road, and these glitches will happen, and we'll figure them out. So our weekly debriefs really helped us all talk about that. We also, with not just the glitches, we were able to talk about, okay, think about what situation everybody has at home. I'm working from home. I know what I have, but what do the other tutors have as far as space to tutor? How many other people are living in their house that are also using up the bandwidth for the video chat? And and that helped us to think about our tutees as well going down the road. Is like, we all know we need to maybe let them know that technology is going to glitch. Give us a minute. We'll iron it out, and we'll make sure you get the tutoring you need. So the debriefs were really great to talk about those things. We discussed best practices. So our training was it always evolved, and we'll as we train in the future, we've got some things that will be changing. It also helped us to develop additional online protocols, because again, it's the end user that really is going to see what's working and what's not working, and what really needs to be, how we need to inform tutors of what they're going to experience and how to deal with that situation. So all the training that happened really helped us really develop our protocols. It was also a time to share, congratulate each other on learned skills. We have the TSS, Dominique, and some of our peer tutors, Mary. They learned new things. We learned how to upload actually a YouTube video and play it in Pisces on the whiteboard. We came up with easy how-tos for our students that we will put on our web pages, so they can get a really quick how to get into online tutoring, whether it's NetTutor or us in Pisces. We shared how to adapt, how well everybody was adapting to the online environment, and then concerns and ideas from the trainees. So now we were getting information from 114 different people to help us move forward with best practices. Next slide. Am I frozen? Next slide. Okay. And so then within those 2 weeks, we had from spring break,
Yes,
I think the week before spring break, March 13th, when we were told, okay, we're not coming back. And go ahead. Am I okay?
And go
Am
ahead,
I
Maria. You're frozen. If you like, maybe if you turn off your video, just keep your sound on. That might.
Okay, I will do that.
I
Right.
can see it.
Did myself. Sorry. I know. Sorry, I did that. Okay. I'm sorry. Okay, let's see. Hopefully that's better. Good. Is that better?
I can hear you well.
Oh, you can, okay.
I can hear you, Maria.
So once we launched online tutoring, the coordinators and the TS. Okay. So once we launched online tutoring, that was for us, it was March or April 6th. Then the TSSs and the coordinators made sure that we kept in touch with the tutors online on a daily basis. We checked in on them. We have different administrator roles, and as supervisors, you can jump into an active tutoring session and say hello or observe. For us, we just touched base with our tutors to see how everything was going, if they had gotten any tutors, any tutees. We did set up some impromptu Zoom chats, so you could, depending on who was on any given hour, you could say, okay, jump in chat. We can chat for a little while, and then they go back to their tutoring rooms. And then we also, like they mentioned before, we did have additional training with Link Systems to become more familiar with the reporting capabilities for our Pisces online tutoring platform. So next slide. Can you hear? Next slide. No, they can hear me. Okay. And then so besides us checking in on the tutors or following up with the, go ahead. So besides us following up with the peer tutors on a daily basis, we also challenge them. We have a Canvas shell where all of our tutors were there. All our tutors were in to give best practices, have discussion boards. And so one of the discussion boards that we set up for our peer tutors was a weekly recap where they could discuss, did they get anybody in their tutoring room? What was it like to tutor online? And if they didn't get any tutees, what did they do with their downtime? And so, because we did challenge them too, and it was great to see in their recaps that some of them went on YouTube to check out other videos, to find if they tutored Spanish, or if they tutored math, something that they could quickly grab, cut and paste into their whiteboard so they could practice those things. And then there was the peer review component, and it was good so that they could see each other's experiences online. So the weekly recap, and when I would post that every week, and if I didn't get it up there on time, the tutors were like, "Where's the weekly recap, Maria?" So it was really great. It helped build community. So next slide, please. Next slide. Additional, okay, and then another thing that we had for the tutors was additional training. This is wonderful. I really can't say enough about Link System support. Every month they have this series of 30-minute webinars. So they're nice and quick. It's not training overload. And the first one is Introduction to Pisces. And you might say, well, why would you send your tutors to an Introduction to Pisces when they're already in there? But it takes a lot of different training methods to maybe hit every bell and whistle that a software has to offer. So our tutors did come back to us and tell them that they really did enjoy the introduction session. The training for the leader tools was even helpful for them to understand what we would be working with, translating in-person strategies, and the jam sessions. And these 30-minute webinars are offered every month. So even if some tutors don't get it one month, they can pick it up the next month. So this is really great support from Link Systems, and our tutors really did enjoy the additional training. Next slide. Next slide, thank you. One of the last challenges we did for the semester is one of our tutors, we were visiting, Evelyn and I were visiting a tutoring room for Tabitha, one of our wonderful tutors. And she actually had a visual, she had a graphic on her whiteboard, and it was a hello, like similar to one of these. And it was like, wow, why don't we have everybody do one of these? So we challenged our tutors to come, personalize your whiteboard, come up with a graphic, say hello. One of the protocols is when you open up your whiteboard to type some information so that there's not a whole lot of lag time when you're trying to explain to a tutee how the session is going to go. So if you look at the hellos and the success, it tells them the tutor's name. It's a 30-minute tutoring session. It tells them that it's going to be recorded. And do they want to launch? The video chat? That's a capability. And this just kind of makes a whiteboard or the tutoring room a lot more welcoming. Next slide. We'll show a couple more of those. Next slide. Thank you. And here's one. I loved the frog slide. It just kind of made me feel good. It made me feel like this tutor's got it. I'm going to go see this tutor. And again, from Mary, one of our mentors, the welcome tutor, has a lot of information. But when I looked at it, it was like, well, it's got a lot of great information. And wow, I want to see Mary again because she tutors administration of justice, statistics, Spanish. You can see all that on the side. So our tutors really came up with some great graphics. We got over 30 graphics, and hopefully we'll use them down the road to do marketing that you'll hear from Dominique, our TSS on the Menifee campus. So so there's a lot you can do with the tutors even when they're working. Some of this was done on their downtime. Thank you. My last slide really just kind of wraps it all up. If we look at this bubble map, I'm looking at the center line there. That's your main line. Our tutors, online tutoring is what we're trying to do. And then you really need training to get it off the ground. Our top bubbles are for all the leadership that had to come together and the support that we got. Tutoring leadership, the free from the Chancellor's office, NetTutor, the CVC-OEI, all of their support. Like I said, our administration, and then link system support was phenomenal. And then the bottom bubbles is really the collaboration, evaluation, professional development, and communication that has to happen so that you can build an entire program with a strong foundation. So I look forward to seeing what other colleges build, but I hope this was helpful. Thank you so much for your time.
Thank you, Maria. Okay, Dominique. I know we have quite a few questions in the chat. We'll try and get to those as soon as possible, but we'll go ahead and move forward with Dominique. Thank you.
Awesome. Thank you. Good morning, everybody. We're still in morning. Yes, so 10 more minutes. So I'm going to talk a little bit of working with our tutors in the evaluation process and actually working within Pisces, and then also providing your student support within NetTutor and the balance between both of them on the student side. So we went ahead and working with, as Maria stated, we would on a daily basis check in with our tutors and go into, as administrators in the Pisces NetTutor platform, we were able to, go into rooms. If our tutors were already working with someone, we would be able to see that. And then we would just check in with them and see how everything was going. And it worked well because there were some instances in checking in with them that they were, struggling with, uploading something or just providing support to the student. So we were able to be additional support to them and then learn together as well. We also had some meetings where we all met together. Our first one was 2 weeks into being on an online center serving students. So in those 2 weeks, we were meeting a lot. We were meeting every day with tutors, but this was the first time we met as a district. We had various of our tutor sessions or tutor programs meeting together, and it was really good. We got to do some group work. We were able to go over our tutor protocols live and like a whole session, being able to see our faces with everyone involved. It was really cool to see and to, go over that. And then we also had our meeting with, we have this group on our campus, and we call it PLACE, and it's a peer leadership alliance for collaborative education. And in this group, we work with our honors mentors, our student success mentors, our FYE mentors on campus, our SI leaders, our tutors. So it's all the groups that are working with students, like peers that are working with students in their academic goals. And we went ahead and reached out to our career education person on campus, and she did a really great resiliency training. And then we celebrated our tutors that were transferring and graduating, and then all of us celebrated that, you know, we were done with the semester, and we, you know, had come full circle in, you know, being online. So it was really great. We were able also to communicate on, you know, expectations going forward, and their thoughts with working with Pisces, and then, you know, working with students within NetTutor. And then additional support that we provided is we would go ahead, and the first 2 meetings were paid and expected that all tutors went in and, you know, worked with us, but we also provided some like office hours from the LRC staff. So Maria and I had like open Zoom meetings, and they were able to come in and ask any questions or just collaborate and talk. So we went ahead and had that possible for them. Next slide. So student outreach was really important, and where we kind of hit like a epiphany was in a meeting, and we were hearing from tutors that they were, you know, some of them said, hey, we really haven't heard about where tutoring is at or how it's being offered. And then some of them are, well, we get so many emails and so much information of what's going on, but it's not, you know, there's just a lot of information, a lot of technology overload. And we were discussing in a meeting, and I said, you know what, we have done so much training for our faculty, you know, to transition from being face-to-face to online. And as Maria said, we had about 140 training sessions. We all went through hours of training. Our tutors went through hours of training. But our students haven't been able to get any training or preparation for that transition from being a face-to-face student and being able to walk into our centers and, you know, ask for help and meeting with someone to now being online and it being different. Well, we always marketed NetTutor with the off times of our LRC being open in the weekends. Not many students knew that that's where we were going. So Maria and I created a 2T seminar teaching students how to be an online student as in the 2T setting. And we provided 4 different sessions. And we also invited our classified staff to come in. And we had really great attendance from our classified staff, which was great because they are working with students. So we have our student portal on our webpage, so students can reach out and talk to multiple classified staff and front office staff on that. So if they go ahead and hit that, and if they're working with any classified staff, we had, I think, over 50 that attended and would be able to provide them information. So it wasn't only, you know, the 8 LRC coordinators and staff that were knowing what was happening or where, you know, to refer students. We had an army that was able to help us refer students to our services. Our coordinators also constructed a email to send to faculty with detailed, it was also attached like a PowerPoint of how to access NetTutor, how to use Pisces, where, you know, NetTutor was providing support for our students and where we were as a center online, and they went ahead and constructed everything so that the faculty would just be able to, you know, add it to their course shell on Canvas. And then of course that link already being on Canvas for our students would get them directly to NetTutor. And then within that seminar, we showed what the NetTutor tutors were able to offer. They also provide tutoring in different languages, and then our off hours, and then we did little demos with them. So we went through the process of working and then teaching them the different components of NetTutor and Pisces. Next slide. In reaching out to our students and making sure, they know where we were, we met with, and I know you guys probably have seen her in the comments, Angelica Anderson. She helped us a lot. She has a background in marketing. So she went ahead and said, hey, plug in, get on social media. So we went ahead and embraced our campus May Madness with student life and development. And we, used hashtags, and it was a perk, and many students were already going into our centers and knew who we were, and so they would be able to see that familiar face on social media. But then students that didn't, they were able to connect a person with who they were seeing online in terms of our professional staff. And also outreach for students, collaboration has been something that we've been focusing on a lot. Collaboration, starting with faculty. Faculty buy-in is very important. With what we have done at MSJC is starting with the faculty that work within our center. So we have a writing center coordinator on each campus and a math center coordinator on each campus. And they work with us on doing workshops. They do, writing center workshops and math workshops. So they brought in the students that they're working with into NetTutor and Pisces to do workshops, and students who are getting in that way. As I also talked to with Place, letting all of our members of Place know, both the coordinators and the students, what we were doing, where we were at, how they can go ahead. The FYE mentors work with first-time students, so they were able to refer them to our tutoring area. And then we also are part of the Caring Campus initiative. So the Caring Campus is a California initiative where it provides highlights of classified professionals and the impact they have on students' lives and their success on the campus. So we have a group of 15 classified professionals that are part of it, and we kind of create initiatives campus-wide. So they were supportive and knowing what we were doing and kind of putting it out that way. And then right now, today, our school is doing high school senior days. It's a 3-day program where they're reaching out to high school seniors and going through the whole process of becoming a student and highlighting the resources. And in around 20 minutes, I will cut from here and go in to that and do a presentation on how to use Pisces and NetTutor and how to get tutoring at MSJC. And then our next slide, we'll share a little bit of our fun MSJC-Force. I know Maria's might be a little bit pixelated, but these are the photos that we shared. Everyone loved them. We had, if you can't really see it, but Maria put in her photo to be Yoda. Our coordinator, Ted Blake, had his son help him with, the background of Star Wars. And then some of our other place members did some pretty good Star Wars fun. So we were having fun, but also letting our students know. We had captions and quotes. And of course, hashtags to talk about what we were doing in our tutoring center. Thank you guys. I'll go ahead and pass it over to Ted to talk about reporting.
Hello, everyone. I hope you can hear me okay. And nobody pushed back. That's the Cloud City in the background. And I was going for when they rescued Luke, not when they were going to be betrayed by his name. But anyway, that's just for us Star Wars geeks. Anyway, but all the best movies have Han Solo, so I couldn't resist. But I think the hashtags are really great for marketing for our students, just to kind of build that. I know my colleagues at Santa Barbara, our MSJC colleagues in the library do a great job with that. But let's get to the reporting. This is kind of the gravy, and I'm assuming many of you really, this is a big part for me. And I think we do a lot of work day to day. But one of the things that I think all of us coordinators really think about, the two big things. Number one, the quality of our tutoring, and number two, the safety of our students. And you know, we don't want there to be any discrimination or harassment happening in any of these sessions. And according to the statewide rules, we are an apportionment collecting college, Mount San Jacinto. So we that line of sight is really important. And as LeBaron Woodyard had mentioned, the legacy is from K-12, but the goal is the same. We need to keep our tutors safe. So one of the best things about NetTutor for us is the automatic archiving and accessibility of all these sessions. And any of us can go into a session at any time if there's an issue, or to just check in on it. And how that works is you can just like, basically you drop in and you see the both tutors working together. But if there's also a question, if a faculty or a student comes up to you, and I'm sure you guys have had this experience saying, hey, sometimes it takes a while for it to sink in, and students are like, I think what happened just happened, and then we can go and look at that. So all this reporting data is there. Every session is archived automatically and accessible at any time for you as a coordinator and an admin in the system. But the nice thing is for students, I wanted to mention, they have a locker within NetTutor. And so when they log into Canvas, obviously they're in Canvas and they log in, they have an archive, they call it a locker. So all of their sessions are archived as well. So both the whiteboard images and the session chat is archived. For us also, it's an issue as well as line of sight. It's just an issue of basically we're paying and logging tutors. And so we want to know when they logged in and log out. All that is recorded in Pisces as well in the reporting. And then I will share these on a weekly or daily basis with classified staff. You can do, and I'll invite Rich to share his screen in a second, but you can do separate reports. You can do the NetTutor tutor sessions, which are from the private tutors within NetTutor, and then your local peer tutor Pisces tutoring sessions. And that's really important to be able to differentiate those, obviously, because thinking about apportionment for any tutoring sessions, you're going to want to see those minutes with your local peer tutors, not the professional tutors. And also for our marketing, you know, to think about, are we really reaching students? Are they reaching out? But as somebody said earlier, I think it was Rich actually, what you create is this community, and therefore the students will be able to find tutoring and whatever they need when they need it. So for us, it's going fully online, it's even more seamless. Students can go right from, instead of going into our Pisces, if we're closed or don't have any tutors, they'll just go into NetTutor. And students, we've done the research, you know, we worked with Smart Thinking for about 4 years before we signed down with NetTutor. And in all of those, we've looked at the data. Students tend to just use it all the time. We thought, oh, evenings and weekends will be when they do online tutoring, but they do it just, I think, just whenever they can, honestly. And now we're also part of Star California Consortium, and then we offer hours to that. So I would highly recommend you guys look into that as well as another option. Finally, just here, the last one before we do a little bit of a demo, we've just got a couple of minutes. You can share these reports with anyone. I routinely share them as part of program review. Faculty sometimes will want to see the reports for their classes. Deans will want to know about usage. You can export it as a CSV or more likely an Excel file. And this is, again, what we're working on for when we think about apportionment and those non-credit positive attendance hours, how those are going to work, that would be working with these reports as well, so that we're being an accurate. So Rich, if you could share your screen. I was going to share mine, but Rich saved me from a FERPA violation. His doesn't include the students' first names. So that was
Wonderful. Thank you.
fail on my part, but the reporting is great. I think that's one of the best things for us as coordinators, that it's all automatic. We don't have to do a lot of work. We don't have to turn anything on or off to get the report generated or anything like that. We just log in. So it's like Rich is logging in to his
Yeah, and I will just say too, Ted, you know, we're not giving this access to anybody. Like, you request it from us so you can get a secure access for people that have that, you know, responsibility to be able to see global statistics on either NetTutor or your tutors.
Yeah. So it's his is going to look a little bit different than mine, just because I also have in mind the ability to run reports for the Pisces group, which would be all of our peer tutors, those 100+ tutors that Maria mentioned in her slide. And so Rich he's got it. You always can do a date range, and then you'll specify up in that top left what you're looking at, and then it's going to load. And so we'll give you a sense of what's there. And Rich, I'll just let you drive and maybe talk about it here for a second.
Okay, sure. Yeah, so I just ran a report here using the date range just April 1st through today. The data is captured in real time, so if you do run it for today, any sessions that have just been completed are going to show up in your reports. And I just ran a general stats report for the college, and you can see that it kind of gives you a breakdown of dropped off questions, you know, live tutorials, and any papers that were dropped off. And this is a NetTutor report, so this is working with students working with our tutors. And then you can kind of see the groups in NetTutor, you know, where are, like, let's say I want to see how, you know, where are we getting the most, where are students really needing the most support. English and literature happens to be, during this date range, you know, the highest number of sessions, followed closely by math. So probably not too surprising to you, Ted. But you can glean some information from here, and of course you can go in and you can drill down a little bit deeper, and that'll give you some more detail, line by line records of the sessions that occurred. And go back here.
And one of the things I think you can really see, Rich, you might even show them too, that we can go down to the course level, which is really cool down there. I think you can show the course usage. And because we're integrated with Canvas, it'll come out with the course title and the section number. So you really know which faculty are, obviously something's happening in their class where they're promoting it. Maybe they're giving students credit, which I don't necessarily recommend, but they would be promoting the service and encouraging their students to reach out for help. And you'll see exactly what sections there are and how much usage, which is really nice. And then you can, of course, drill down that, you know, COM 100, I'm assuming they're doing paper drop-off. The paper drop-off report is going to be a PDF of the markup. First of all, it'll be the general comments, and then it'll come the markup within the essay itself, or speech in that case. And for something like math or chemistry, you're going to get that whiteboard session that you can see. So again, if there's any question, in a sense, it's easier to handle the complaints if there is a complaint from a faculty or a question in something that's online via NetTutor or Pisces, because it's right there. And usually, you know, the truth is kind of in the middle. You don't have, you know, I think probably like you all, we don't get a lot of complaints. It's mostly thanks. But when you do get those, it's helpful to have the record. And so his screen, on my screen, for example, up in the top left, there'll be a NetTutor search and a Pisces search. But I can't show you the Pisces. If anybody would like to have me walk through them kind of one-on-one, we can arrange like a Zoom meeting. I think I can show you. I don't know. I'll have to research that a little bit. I do want to share, but it has all that functionality. So I think that's it, Rich. I think we probably ought to leave time. I know we need some time for wrap up and questions. So I don't want to keep doing this, but I do want you to know this was really a big part of what kept me going with it, was the ease of the reporting. It was really great. So I'll stop there and we'll take questions anytime. Thank you.
Wonderful. Thank you, Ted. So here you'll notice, Evelyn, if you'd like to join us and talk a little bit about the resources you've provided.
Okay, we wanted to share with you just a few of the incredible resources that are available to all of us to use. And we looked at them often. The CVC offers so much in the way of all kinds of resources you want to build and develop, all kinds of ways to look at specific things you're doing at support at CVC EDU. There are also excellent preparedness resources at the same location. And then also Pisces information. I have to tell you, CVC probably offers us more resources than any one group ever. And Jessica and Karen, whatever you've done to create this, my hat's off to you. It's just simply amazing. I also sincerely want to thank and offer the support of Richard Mead. Rich, you know, we are able to call you on a moment's notice and you're there. We can get into Zoom and talk, and you're so supportive of our efforts. We're so lucky to work with a group like LSI. Also, we wanted to offer all of you this. You know, we've gone through the good, the bad, and the ugly, and we still have more to go through, I'm sure. But as a team, we're more than happy to help you all in any way. If you have startup questions, feel free to contact me or any of us, but I would be happy to help you as you begin this venture. If you're looking at Pisces technology for training the staff and tutors and what all that takes, I mean, beyond just the training, the incredible effort it takes to get this all on board, Maria Aquino is absolutely an expert in this area. Marketing, online tutoring questions. Dominique Duarte, she came in new to using Pisces when we went through this crunch in March, or fairly new. She was able to train tutors within just a few days and help Maria with the training efforts. She has done so much in the way of streamlining our efforts, in the way of making sure our management is cohesive, and you know, her marketing skills are just incredible. And finally, of course, our fearless leader, Ted Blake. He has incredible knowledge when it comes to reports. He, and like all of us, are very concerned about marketing and about apportionment to make sure that we meet the requirements, you know, that we're able to provide the kind of faculty line of sight we need to provide, and that we're using the tutors the way and most effectively. And Ted will be happy to share that information with you. I also want to say Maria has put here at this MSJC CCC Sharing Online Ideas, we wanted to share with you some of the documents that we've created. If you decide to go this route, these will be very valuable in assisting you in developing your own services. We have others as well. And I mean, we're here, we're an open book. We'll help in any way we can. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Evelyn. So now we'd like to go ahead and, you know, have a little bit of discussions. I know quite a few of you were able to include your questions in the chat, but I kind of set up some just general questions just in case we wanted to discuss this particular area. So, you know, if you'd like to share, what are some concerns your colleges, that your college has, you know, that they've been facing with online tutoring? Maybe some successes, right? This is all about discussion, collaboration, maybe some ideas that you can share in the chat with your colleagues about what are some successes you have had with online tutoring. And then, of course, some other ideas on how you market the student support to make sure your students are able to find it and to use it, right? I think that's one of the key pieces that we're all talking about is we can set up this wonderful resource. How do we make the students come and use that particular support? And that's all wonderful. So if you'd like to share with us, or if you'd like to contribute, I'd invite you to do that. If you'd like to share on, you know, turning on your mic to talk to us, I'd encourage that as well. So I'm going to try and see if I can keep an eye on this chat here. Okay, so we have some questions here. Okay, you'd like, oh yes, of course. So if you can please send the link for the CCC sharing ideas, absolutely. We'll pull that from the slides and we'll make sure to provide that. And then also, perfect. Can you post the link to Pisces information? Yep. So we'll go ahead and do that now. Anybody want to join in, turn on their mics and ask a question? I invite you to do that now. No question? I know we did a really good job. All of our colleagues are answering a lot of these questions already in the chat. So, okay. So in NetTutor, sometimes students have to wait a long period of time to get a response from a tutor. So Richard, would you like to join in on this question just regarding wait times as students wait for services? Tutor?
Sure. Yeah, we've we've had some reports of wait times, and usually, what we'd like to do is just get as much information as possible from, the person at the school who's hearing it, or from the students directly. We have a customer support link within NetTutor, and even within Pisces as well. So, we do thousands and thousands of sessions a week, and sometimes we hear that students waited a long time, and we really just like to look at those because most of the time student thinks they're waiting and maybe they got disconnected or something happened with their internet. So there's a lot of things that can go on, but I think what you'll realize from us is that we're really supportive and pretty quick to look at those on an individual basis and provide additional information or resolution pretty quickly in most cases, just depending on how much digging we have to do. And I think, our reputation of giving that level of support is pretty well known in California specifically too.
Thank you. Let's see. Okay, so some of you joined in and said you've also experienced that. Wonderful. So please, yes, just like Richard said, please let us know so we can support you. Okay, so wonderful. So we've got a lot of great feedback. Thank you everyone from MSJC, all of our colleagues. This has been so useful for so many of us. So we just, again, there's a lot of thank yous, right? And appreciation around sharing. And this is key, right? During these times, it's not, it's not easy. And I think the biggest takeaway is really collaboration, working with each other. Again, I always stress we are community colleges. We need to work as a community to support our students and to really, be able to share as much as we can and to help our students through these times as they need as much support as we can provide them. And so if you can stay just a few minutes, I know Karen, if you can help me, or I'm going to stop sharing really quick. I'm going to try and pull that link for all of you to share the resources that MSJC put together to share their information.
Great, Jessica. So, do you want me to do the poll while you're doing the link and we can multitask?
Please.
All right, let me go ahead and get that going. All right. Do you guys see that?
Yeah.
Super.
I want to thank everybody for coming, and we have one of our former tutors, Angelica Anderson, was responding to some of the chat, and she's experienced it on both sides. She helped us. She was part of one of the first training cohorts, so she's experienced it being a tutor, and she's been helping us with marketing the session, and she's currently working with our honors program as a former honors student. So thank you, Angelica, for being here as well. That's great.
May I also add too that Connie Hill is here, and Connie Hill works the front desk at the LRC on the San Jacinto campus, and she is actually the heartbeat of that center, and it's so nice to have her here as part of our audience. She's the one that sets the tone for that welcoming, warm, inviting time students can experience in our LRCs. And one other thing, and I'll be quiet, at the end of the day, we did all this work and we handed it over to our tutors. And our tutors are really the people who deserve the applause and the thanks for all of this. We have learned so much from them. Ted and I talk about it. I mean, we have just, what the tutors do, they are the real experts, and we've learned to listen to them. So anyway, shout out to them too.
Wonderful. So thank you, everyone, and we appreciate the feedback and the poll as well. You can take a moment to do that. And again, thank you, everyone. I did include the link. It is a Google document, so you'll see the link to the MSJC resources. Feel free to click on that so that you can keep that link. And then again, we'll be able to provide the recording of this webinar on our YouTube @ONE YouTube channel. And so please visit our cvc.edu website, and you can find that information very easily on our site. So again, thank you, everyone, and I hope you enjoy the rest of your week.
Thanks all. And there were a couple of questions about Star California, so you can feel free to email me or reach out to NetTutor. Thank you, Jessica and Karen.
Thank you.